I can't bend it. It's unbendable. It's like I can't. Ugh. Hello, my friends. Maldonado here, coming at you, jumping on the hashtag bandwagon. I saw a whole bunch of videos in my feed with the hashtag 7 decks for deadly sins, and I was thinking, what's this all about? So I watched a couple, and I found out that the originator of the hashtag, Sylvain, has a channel called Sylvain's Deadly Sins, and he is so down to earth. Seems like such a pleasant soul, and I really enjoyed his videos, so I hit that subscribe button. Sylvain, you've got a new subscriber. So let's get into this topic here, 7 decks for deadly sins. So the idea is that you have to go into your collection and see which deck you would assign to each of the 7 deadly sins, which are pride, greed, wrath, envy, lust, gluttony, and sloth. So I went through all of my collection and I think I figured it out. Sin number 1, pride. This is my pride deck. And from the description that everybody has given about how they're defining pride with their deck, is it's a deck that you're flexing with, a deck that you want to show off, and a deck that just fills you with pride. This was gifted to me for doing some work. And it was some Photoshop work that I did for a tarot related website, and I worked really hard on that. I spent a lot of hours that I didn't think I was going to spend doing this, but I enjoyed it so much. I enjoy playing around with Photoshop, and obviously I love tarot. So this was definitely a labor of love, and I wasn't expecting anything in return. It was a fun project for me to work on, but I was gifted this deck. And what's so special about it is that it is a reprint. Actually, I guess you can say it's a hybrid. The backs are meant to be a replica of the 1909 Rider-Waite deck, the Roses and Lilies, and the card faces are a replica of the 1910 version, which I believe is the Rider A deck. So this is the box that that was made for this deck, and it's so cool. You've got a depiction of the Sun card in the front. We've got the 3 of Pentacles and the Moon card and our 9 of Coins. So this box is so great. And I'm just going to pull the tab open here. And you'll see that these are the backs that were tinted brown just for this deck. But everything else about the images is directly from the 1910 Rider A deck. And you'll see that all the discoloration and all the little imperfections have been preserved in this reprint. Like you'll see the discoloration here in the mountains of the lovers, and a little bit over here. Like all of these little imperfections are what you would see in the actual 1910 deck. And this was just such a lovely gesture. Only 100 of these decks were printed, and I got number 74. Every time I see this deck, it just reminds me of how hard I worked on that project and just, the hours that I put in. So it was a learning experience, it was fun, and I got this sweet little deck. So yeah, this is definitely my pride deck, for sure. Sin number 2, greed. This is my greed deck. And it's not a tarot deck, but it's actually called Barajas. And it's a Spanish deck, and it can be used for playing games, but it's also used for divination. And this actually belonged to my mom, who passed away in 2013. And I always would look through this deck. She had it in her bookshelf and she let me look at them. And I just love them. And actually, I think this is the deck that triggered my interest in tarot. And she didn't read with them, and I actually don't know how to read with them. I know there's maybe a handful of books out there that will teach you how, and one of these days I will. But right now I just love looking at them. And what's so different about this deck compared with tarot is that the numbers only go up to 7, and then they jump to 10, which is the page, 11, which is the knight, and 12, which is the king. And like tarot, it does have 4 suits. So we have coins, and then we have our cups. Look at that cup. That cup is just gorgeous. And then again, stop at 7 and then jump to 10. And then we have our swords. And then we have our clubs. Why is this so blurry? Come on, focus. Show them clubs. Okay, there we go. So there's only 40 cards in the deck. And, you know, because these belong to my mom, I just cherish them. And once I do learn how to read with this deck, I'm not letting anybody touch this. This is why it's my greed deck. I'm going to be so greedy about this deck. I don't know if I'll read for other people with this deck. I mean, I almost don't want to take it out of the box myself, but just going through them just reminds me of my childhood, and I just love this and keep this deck very close to my heart. Greed. Yeah. Sin number 3, wrath. This is my wrath deck. Now, don't get me wrong. I like this deck. Okay, let me explain. The images on this are fabulous. It's the cardstock. The cardstock. So this deck is pretty thick, okay? And trying to shuffle them is nearly impossible. Now, they were actually a lot worse in terms of being able to fan them out. And I learned a little trick that you can use cornstarch and it'll help. And it has the similar effect of using fanning powder. I don't know if you've heard of fanning powder. It's something that magicians use for their card decks so that they can, you know, just easily fan out their cards. And that's really expensive. So I went the cornstarch route since I already had it in my closet, and it worked for a little bit, but now they're doing it again. Like, just trying to fan these out, like look, they come out in chunks. You can't fan them out. And then when you want to shuffle, because I like to riffle shuffle my deck. So if I kind of split this in half, right, and just see if I can hold it. They're so wide that it's hard to, I can't bend it. It's unbendable. It's like, I can't, oh my God. Okay, so if I try, oh my God, it's just even hard to get them in place. So I can't, like this is what happens, right? This is not riffle shuffling. And it's just, you can't. It's too thick. But like I said, I love the images. I mean, look at these images, right? They're black and white, but have little pops of color in there, which I love. Look at that death card. You know, I mean, these are so great, but I can't bend them. And you see, they're so shiny, like that extra shiny coat just probably, you know, makes them even more stiff. But what I like using, the spread that I like using with this deck is one for finding lost items, because there is a position in the spread where it tells you that it's next to something of a particular color. And I love using this because there's only one color on each card. So it makes that so much easier. You can't be like, pick a card, any card, because you can't. But, I'll try to shuffle it in a different way because I like the art. Sin number 4, envy. Tarot de Marseille, specifically the Jean Dodal version, is my envy deck. Now, when I first started with tarot, I was a Rider-Waite Smith gal from the beginning. I would see Tarot de Marseille and say, yeah, I have no idea how to even begin to read with this deck. The pips don't have scenes. I don't know what's going on with them. The cups just have a bunch of cups and maybe some flowery things. I won't be able to figure that out. I'm just going to keep getting Rider-Waite Smith clones, and that'll be the end of it. That'll be my happy place, Rider-Waite Smith. But then I caught the documentary called Tarology that follows Enrique Enriquez, and my world just opened up. I saw Tarot de Marseille in a whole new light, and that documentary was just amazing. It made me think, wait a minute, I think I could actually learn how to use this. And it's such a different style of reading. And I thought, yeah, I gotta get me a deck. But not just anyone, because in that documentary, Enrique kept showing this particular version, and every now and again they would show some other Tarot de Marseille decks. I was like, those are okay, but these, I had to have them for one particular feature, and it was the bulging eyeballs on the characters. I just love them. Every time they would have close-ups of this card, look at those eyes. I love those eyes. I don't know why, but I love them so much. And I would see other decks, and the other decks, like there's some, the Noble deck and, other versions. These eyes don't pop out like that. And I love them. And they kept showing it on the screen. I said, okay, let me just look this up, buy the deck, and just have it. I love those eyes. Oh my goodness. So I went online looking for it, and in my research, I kept finding that they weren't printing them anymore. And I was thinking, oh no, what am I gonna do? I looked around, couldn't find it, and I thought, okay, let me just go on eBay. Maybe it's an eBay thing. Nowhere to be found. And I think one place I saw it being sold for $300, and I said, well, I love the eyeballs, but not that much. So I kept looking around. I would go to Facebook tarot groups that were, trading decks. Nothing. Couldn't find it. And then I came across a website. It had some history on Jean-Claude Flornoy, and that's important to also note that Jean-Claude Flornoy, he was the one who did the reproduction of the Jean Dodal deck. So I needed this to be very specific. It needed to be the restoration of Jean-Claude Flornoy of the Jean Dodal Tarot de Marseille deck. It had to be that or nothing. So I came across this website that had information on Jean-Claude Flornoy and some of the other decks that he had reproduced and printed, and some books. And then I saw a button that said boutique. I said, boutique? That sounds like a store. Let me click on that. And I clicked on it, and I kid you not, this website looked like it was designed in 1998. And they just left it like that. And I'm scrolling through the boutique, and I see this deck. And I'm like, is this for real? I don't know. I don't know. And then the website was hosted in France. So, of course, the currency was in euros. Look at these eyes. Look at those eyes. I love them. I don't know. I don't know. Is this a scam? I don't know. So I would keep going back, checking eBay and all the other places where you can find used decks, and nothing. So I kept going back to this site, and I was like, you know what? Let me take a chance. Let me just take a chance, because price-wise, it was a pretty good deal. I mean, doing the conversion plus the shipping, it still ended up being under $40. Like once you did the conversion from euros, which, you know, for a nice deck here in the US, it's not bad. But the website, oh, I don't know. I wasn't convinced by the website. Again, it looked like it was over 2 decades old. But I was so desperate to own these eyeballs that I went for it. I was like, let me just do it. And then a couple of days later, maybe the next day, I got an email from Roxanne Flornoy. And it turns out Jean-Claude Flornoy had passed away and his wife was running the business. So she wrote back to me, and this was just at the beginning of the pandemic when things were starting to slow down. The mail was slow. Getting any kind of service like printing services was slow. So she told me that they didn't have the Dodal decks on hand, but they were going to go to the printers next week. And I thought, okay, well, at least I got a response. I think the next week after that, she sent me an email saying, okay, we got them from the printers. We're going to ship them out. Here's your invoice. And I paid it through PayPal. And again, I'm like, I don't know. Is this okay? But I tell you, I think it was maybe 10 days later, I got a package in the mail with a stamp that said Air France. And when I saw that, I'm like, the only thing I'm expecting from France is this deck. And it came in the mail. Oh my God, I was so excited. It actually happened. I mean, if you're willing to take the chance and you're obsessing over these eyeballs the way I am, you can go to that site and, you know, as old as it looks, it works. So if you want to take the chance, do it. I mean, look at those eyeballs. Look at them. And it turns out that there is a Kickstarter right now of someone who's also doing the Jean Dodal version of Tarot de Marseille. They're called Artisan Tarot. Yeah, so if you don't want to take a risk on the website that I went to, but I mean, it's from Jean-Claude Flornoy, so. But again, if you don't want to take the risk and you'd rather do a Kickstarter, then you can go check out the Kickstarter. And I think they've made a couple of little changes to their version, but the eyeballs are still there. So if the eyeballs are your thing, you can still get them with the Kickstarter. But you have options. I'm telling you, you have options now. You don't have to suffer the way I did, okay? So I don't have to be envious anymore of the deck that's in the documentary because it is now in my possession. Sin number 5, lust. This is my lust deck. Let me open this up over here off camera because it's so shiny. It's so shiny that it's kind of a problem on the camera. And I had trimmed this deck. And I was afraid to. I was afraid to trim this deck because it was just so gorgeous and I didn't want to ruin it. But I took the plunge anyway. So the cards normally are larger than this. And but I kept seeing other trim decks where they just got rid of the borders and the artwork just blew up. And I just loved this so much. I mean, look at these colors. Every time I would see these cards anywhere, whether it was on somebody's blog or just a video, it would just make me all tingly. I mean, this is definitely my lust deck. I don't know, maybe it's just the combination of the colors or just the boldness of the artwork. Let's just say this is my Lust deck and leave it at that. But look how gorgeous. And I know you guys, I mean, this is Mary L. Who hasn't seen the Mary L deck? But look at this. And then when I also edged it in black, which I thought came out really cool. And at first I decided, you know, I didn't want any borders at all. But then when by accident, I left like a little tiny hairline of a black, for me, it just looked so much better having that little tiny bit of black along the edges. Like, look at this one. Like the contrast with the white and then that little bit of black along the edges, I just thought looked so cool. And it just, oh, I love, like, going through this deck inspires me to want to create something, you know? Like, I want to draw, I want to make art when I see this. And it kind of reminds me of, have you guys seen European Vacation? And Clark Griswold is at the top of the Eiffel Tower with his wife, and he's just so inspired by the view. He's got all of these feelings and urges, and he doesn't know what to do with himself.
It makes me so... I want to write, I want to paint, I want to sculpt something massive, I got a creative urge to...
Yeah, so that's me with this deck. Gorgeous, gorgeous. My Lust deck. Sin number 6, Gluttony. Tarot Illuminati is my Gluttony deck. And Gluttony is supposed to be a deck that you didn't really need to buy, didn't need to have it in your collection, but you bought it anyway. This definitely falls under that category. And it's funny because normally I don't like this style of artwork, like the very digital art look. Something is funny because I said I love using Photoshop, but like if it looks very Photoshoppy, it's not my kind of deck. So like, you know, a lot of the Ciro Marchetti decks, not my thing. I know a lot of people love his decks and they're very popular, and you know, I get it, but it's just not my thing. So when I saw this deck, I was like, oh, I don't know, but then there were just a couple that were just so beautiful, and I thought, well, maybe I can just forgive the other cards and just get it for the few that I like, because I mean, here, I'll show you what I mean. So like this one, it's gorgeous. I absolutely love it. And, you know, especially because, you know, dark red, that's my color. And like the, you know, 2 of Swords. You know, so it's like these kinds of cards I thought were just lovely. 4 of Swords. And this, I think, is one of my favorites, the 9 of Swords. Again, I just love the dark red and just like the small bits of gold. But then, like, as you get further into the deck, there's just a lot of gold and a lot of stuff going on. Like, these are fine. And this, okay, now we're going to get into it. Look at all of this stuff. It's just so much, but it's just too gaudy for my taste, okay? It's just a lot of stuff going on in this Hierophant. And then the 6 of Wands, like what? There's people and there's wands, and you know, there's a horse. I can't tell what the horse is wearing and what the people are wearing because there's just so much happening here. It's just so many things. Look at this Queen of Pentacles, because she's surrounded by stuff. It's just too much. And this wheel, the Wheel of Fortune. I mean, this looks like something out of Caesar's palace. Like, what is happening? And this one's called the Alchemist, which is supposed to be the magician. But like, look at all this stuff on this card. Like, there's so many things there. Like, you know, yes, he's supposed to have all the elements. I get it. There are just way too many things going on in here. I mean, and look under his what is this? Like, this magician is a hoarder. Look, he's got stuff under his table. What is this stuff that he's hoarding? Like, all of this deck is like a hoarder's deck. It's just too much. It's just too much. And this sun card, like, where's the little boy? It's like, where's Waldo? You can't find him because he's like embedded in all this stuff. Okay, the death card, that's actually pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. So we'll put that in the nice column. But now we're back to this again. Like, it's too much stuff. Like, it falls under the gluttony category, not just because I bought a deck that I didn't need, but the stuff in the deck is too much. It's full of gluttonous people who have things that they don't need. Yeah, so this is my gluttony deck. Sin number 7, Sloth. This is my Sloth deck, and I kind of feel like it might be everybody else's Sloth deck. This is my original Rider-Waite Smith deck. You know, I learned with the Rider-Waite. So many books I have samples of the Rider-Waite Smith. And I go to it every time when I want to get a really good, accurate reading and I don't want to experiment. This is what I go to because I'm lazy and I don't want to think about the symbolism in other cards. I don't want to think about the artwork in other cards. I don't want to have to think, right? That's what Sloth is all about, being lazy. And when I just want the answers right away because I don't have time to dilly-dally, my original Rider-Waite. But yeah, this is my baby. This is my baby. We are lazy together, but we do some really great readings with it. And that's the end of my 7 decks for Deadly Sins. I hope you enjoyed my collection of sins. I hope you enjoyed the reasons why I associated it with those sins. And hopefully you'll come back and check out the artwork that I'm going to be doing with some of my readings, because that's what I do here. I like to do a quick reading to see what kind of artwork I'm going to make. And a big thank you to Sylvain for the idea, putting it together, and getting all these tarot YouTubers in a little community sharing their deadly sins. Bye for now.